Hey guys, CDTVthaG here, and the G of course stands for Gabago.
Gabago, over here.
I haven't actually watched The Sopranos yet, but I know about the Gabago. And today, I'm gonna be reacting to the new album from Knowledge, Strength, and Integrity, All Over the Place. Now this is one, I know there's gonna be comments like, why are you reacting to this album? This is a YouTuber rap album, this doesn't count. But honestly, I'm interested to hear this, and I want to see if KSI has improved from his last project, because I've listened to pretty much everything he's dropped so far, because I do want to keep up with his music and see if he is improving, because I haven't really been a fan of it before. I've listened to it all the way back to, you know, the Keep Up EP, the Jump Around EP, and all that stuff, those great projects. But anyway, say what you want about KSI, he has came a long way since those days in 2017, and it does seem like he's starting to take rapping a lot more seriously now. And real quick, I want to give my overall feelings on KSI before we get into the reaction, just so you guys know where I stand on this, because I've never reacted to his music before. I listened to Dissimulation, and I think that project was an improvement on KSI's previous stuff. Like I said, it sounds like he is starting to take the music a bit more seriously, but I still think he has a long way to go. And one of my main takeaways from Dissimulation was my mixed feelings on the big name features. On one hand, it was really cool to see that. It's really cool to see someone that's came from this platform still sort of representing this platform and having these huge mainstream features on his album. But on the other hand, I don't know if it's a good move for the quality of the albums, because I think there is still a gap between how professional the features sound and how professional KSI sounds. But he's getting there. I can respect what he's doing, and we do have the big name features on this again, so I'm hoping that KSI has improved to the point where there isn't as much of a gap between him and the features. So let's not waste any more time before we get into it. I want to see what we're dealing with here, and the main thing I'm going to be looking for throughout this reaction is the improvement of KSI, if it's there on this project. Let's get started with track number 1 on here, starting off with the solo song, The Moment.
Just hopped out the bank, I'm rolling, pockets swollen, it's my year, and I don't care. I enter the room, I'm glowing, situated in my own lane. I'm not in it for the one time. Snowpiercer, my train. You might not follow the cap. I'm so ahead like I'm wearing a beanie.
Hey, shout out my twin CDTV Productions, the Beanie Man.
No, she hate all the money I waste.
Ooh, that's a smooth little flow there.
She liking the way that I'm potent.
Why, this is growing on me the more it's going on.
I don't care. I enter the room, I'm glowing, zero fear.
Not bad. That was actually a pretty good start to the album. Definitely an improvement here, more professional sounding. I noticed one thing on this track that I did notice throughout pretty much all of Dissimulation, which is that I like it more when KSI is straight up rapping without any autotune than when he does use it. But that's just because I feel like the autotune on Dissimulation, it didn't sound amazing to me personally. I didn't like the sound of it on tracks like Cap and What You Been On. But the actual autotune parts on here were pretty smooth too. Definitely, I think this was actually a pretty good song, had a nice vibe to it. I like the production. He does put, you know, a little bit of wordplay in there. It's nothing too complex, it's nothing that's gonna blow your mind, but I do appreciate the effort that he puts in there to try and throw these little bits of wordplay in, these kind of like references and stuff like that. I was struggling to get into it at first because of the autotune sound, but it grew on me as the track went on, and because he had that rapping verse on verse 2, it really gave the track some momentum that allowed me to fully get into it. So great beat by SX on there, and yeah, KSI was solid on this one. Alright, let's move on to track number 2. We have number 2, and this features 21 Savage and Future, so I'm really curious to hear this one and see if there is a big gap between KSI's level of rapping and Future and 21 Savage. But why is my camera auto-focusing on my microphone? I know this big microphone condom thing is huge, but it's not a face.
Hit me on my burner, hit me on my burner. All we know is murder, all we know is murder. Tears in your eyes on your mama.
Okay, KSI's got Future on some smooth shit.
Have mercy on the G. Whole gang up on my brother's leg. Racks on racks. Where were you when I was down? Where were you?
This hook is okay, but hearing it next to Future, I think there is just that gap. 21 Savage is gonna slide on this beat.
All my diamonds hit up 21. Wet your block and a pick up 21.
Oh, 21 was a perfect feature choice for this.
Two-tone made bad St. Color, Kentucky 21.
Whole gang up on my brother's lid. Guess you with the shit now. Number 2.
Why did he say 2 so forcefully there? Number 2. I don't even think like the hook on that one itself was bad. Maybe the reason why it sounds so weird to me is just hearing someone with an English accent next to 21 Savage and Future, because there's something about that transition from Future's verse into KSI's hook and 21 Savage's verse into KSI's hook that sounds a little awkward to me. I don't know, it just sounds really strange and it kind of throws off the whole vibe of the song. In terms of the performances here, 21 Savage was a great feature choice for this song. He completely slid over this beat. It just sounded like a beat that he would slide over, but I don't know, the KSI parts felt a little weird to me. It doesn't stand out as much when he's doing his own songs because he's the only person on them, so there's no sort of weird abrupt switch, but like I said, just the transitions between the features and KSI, something about it just doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel that smooth to me. Number 2 wasn't that bad. Future was pretty smooth on it. He didn't do a whole lot, but his verse had a nice vibe. 21 Savage was great, and KSI was fine, just sounded a bit strange to me. But let's move on to the next one, track number 3, Patience. This is another one with features. This is featuring YUNGBLUD and Polo G. This one was released as a single, but I didn't listen to it, so let's jump into it and see what we've got. Hold up, you've got Polo G on a beat like this?
Make the right call, or she'll be gone forever.
Okay, let's pause that for a second. I never really considered Polo G as someone that could be on like these sort of like mainstream, sort of like disco sounding songs that could be on the radio, but he completely killed it on a vibe like this. KSI got Polo to switch the production. But the question is, how is KSI gonna sound on here?
Need a little space to slow the brain. I don't really wanna feel the pain. Feels like I'm gonna break. I need a little bit.
I'm actually surprised at how much this sounds like a radio hit. KSI really fit in on this one, like a lot. It sounded natural on here.
I won't let you get to me. Tables turning. And my heart won't change. It's my head.
Bro. KSI's out here dropping summer bangers. What was that? I actually really like how that one came out. Like, that sounded like something I would hear on the radio and like in a really good way. And KSI's singing was smooth on here, which I didn't expect. It actually sounded pretty good. Like, clearly there was a lot of effects on his vocals, but I don't think that's a bad thing if they make the vocals sound good. And the actual singing itself didn't sound like it was all that bad at its core, so he did good on this. The features were great. YUNGBLUD gave a great chorus to that I think will really elevate this song. This has probably been on the UK charts. I've not actually kept up with KSI's chart performance, but I wouldn't be surprised if this charted in the UK because it sounds like it would have. I think it was a really cool decision to get Polo G on a beat that's very different to what we've typically heard him on. I don't think I've ever heard Polo G over a beat like this before, which is just another thing that makes it stand out, and I thought he fit in insanely well on it. Wow, that actually exceeded my expectations. I can see the improvements in KSI in terms of how he sounds. Like, number 2, the transitions between him and the features, like I said, felt a little off. Here, seamless. Everything was so smooth, flowed together so well, and KSI didn't disrupt the vibe of his own song on here. No offense. Let's move on to the next one. Another solo track on here, track number 4, You.
Everything I do it all for you. Floating tonight in the air, can you feel it like this is a garden? Saint Tropez got a few vibes, a preface or 2 out in Dubai. No keto, mojitos.
The singing on this one isn't really hitting for me, and the beat, while it is picking up a bit right now, overall is just really kind of slow to me. Okay, this outro is smooth though. That's probably the track I feel the least strongly about so far on this project. There wasn't anything that stood out to me as particularly bad. The singing was okay, but the beat for that one, it was really slow for the most part, and I felt like I just couldn't really vibe with that song all that much. Picked up a little bit more towards the end, but not enough to really get me interested in it. You was one that I'd probably skip most times that I listen to this. Track number 5, this is by Anne-Marie, KSI, and Digital Farm Animals, and it's called Don't Play. I believe this was also released before the album, but again, haven't heard it yet. What the fuck is a Digital Farm Animal?
Don't play games with my heart.
I helped you get a UAV. Still could never get you that AT. Sneaking in school just to get by you.
This man just dropped a COD reference in here. That is definitely the most sort of YouTube rapper thing that has been on this album so far. Using a UAV and an AC-130 as a metaphor. Okay, moving on.
If you don't give me your time, then I ain't giving you mine. If you're gonna lie,
It's now you just gone missing. You're airing all my wishes. You're online but still won't.
Man, there's always just parts of these songs that hit me like, shit, this is smooth.
don't play games with my heart.
You can kind of hear like KSI's voice pitched down, I think, in the background of the hook there, and that sounds nice as well. Adds a bit of like thickness to the chorus. That chorus be thick, boy. Nice, okay, that was a fun song. For what this album is going for, this really seems like KSI just going for like hits. You know, he's making all these mainstream style songs, and I think that makes sense for someone like him to do. Anne-Marie was nice enough on here. I like the singing. The pre-chorus was cool on here. I like the transition between Anne-Marie's verse into KSI's pre-chorus and then into the hook. I think it just worked really smoothly there. Also, she needed help getting a UAV. How shit was she at the game? There hasn't really been a bad song on this so far. You is the weakest to me so far. I'd say that's the closest thing to a bad song, but there's been nothing that is like outrageously trash, and that's good. Let's move on to the next one. Track number 6, another one that I think was released before the project, I think, but again, I haven't heard it. Really Love, featuring Craig David and Digital Farm Animals. So I think we know exactly what kind of vibe we're going to get with this again. From Patience up till now, it seems to be the sort of like upbeat dancing style of tracks. Maybe after that we'll start getting into the more rap style songs, which is what I'm personally more interested in, but yeah, we'll see.
Got a lot of time for the one that I'm watching. I'm in prime if you want to get something. No Valentine, but my heartbeat pumping. Great for my living now pays me. Don't cook for my chef like Ainsley.
Ainsley Harriet. Yeah, boy.
Crazy, I think of you all the time, baby.
Obsessed with the fitness. That booty got me moving with the stiffness. Praying that I finally get a hit this.
Wrecking My Balls, Miley. Showing the fans I'm the only. That booty got me moving with the stiffness. Thank you for telling us about your hard on, KSI. Yeah, that last verse was something else. Not a bad song. Definitely, like Don't Play It had another really memorable chorus, so I think that feature was a good idea. That chorus is definitely going to be stuck in my head. Like I said, I'm not super crazy about this segment. Patience has been my favorite out of these last 4 songs. I can see what he's going for with these, but the whole dance pop thing isn't necessarily my favorite, but I think he's doing it pretty well though. Really Love was decent though, decent. Some questionable bars, but that's okay. That's okay. It wouldn't be a rap record without it. Track number 7, Gang Gang, featuring Deno and J1. Ooh, this sounds like something that should have like, I don't know, J Hus or something like that.
Back of them jeans looking mad.
Trust me, it's long when they aim at me. Same chain, but they ain't the same as me.
Someone told me she's a liar. Never gonna cap, I need a ride.
My G savage, he been active. J poppin', I stay guappin', there's no slacking. Stay rapping, I live lavish. I just pulled up in a Mazda, now she flashing the racks. And
okay, I like how J1's flowing.
Gang, stop playing with the gang. Stop playing with the gang, yeah.
I'm starting to notice now that KSI is definitely playing like a small part on quite a few of these songs. It was the same here on Gang Gang, where he just had one verse, the chorus was by someone else, the other verse was by someone else. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm actually wanting to hear more of KSI on this album now, and I'm assuming that's what we'll get more towards the back end, because I don't think there's any more tracks left that have 2 features. But yeah, I'm ready to hear more KSI on this album, but maybe that's just me, because the purpose of this listen for me is to see the improvement. improvement in KSI. Another one that again is catchy. There's actually been a surprising amount of like super catchy songs on here. Like the last 3 songs, I could see the choruses from them getting stuck in my head, which again, not something I ever thought I'd be saying about a KSI album back in like 2019, 2018. Track number 8, Rent Free, and this is featuring Gracey.
Good, my name's on the tip of your tongue, and that's on you, baby. You, baby, I don't think about you.
Living in the city cause I wanna. Tipping many drivers in the city with a hunter. Quarantine won't stop me and pink vapor fly when I zoom. Ain't forgetting that if I enter any room, any tune that I'm hopping on is give me out the blue, but then I never give an F. Black and white, I keep it so don't.
Why does it sound like the producer is freestyling here? The beat is interesting to me on here, but it sounds like the producer is just like freestyling with sounds. It's like, we'll try this instrument, throw that in a little bit, see how that sounds. Oh, we want to throw in a little bit of bass here, a little doo-doo-doo sound. The beat seems really all over the place on this one. It seems a bit less polished, I think.
No stress over here, busting in my Montclair, nigga.
I don't worry about you.
And I'm living rent free. Big bang is coming from the ego theory. If I want it, I get it. Never regret it. If I go dying, I'm dying in credit.
Came in with energy on that second verse. That track sounded strange. It sort of felt like the beat didn't know what it wanted to be on that one. It felt like it had all these kind of random elements in it that meshed together in a really weird way. It sounded kind of like thrown together almost. I think the strongest part of that song was the second verse from KSI. I'm noticing with a lot of these songs, my favorite part has been KSI's second verse, but the energy he came in with on the second verse was super captivating. But in terms of the whole song, I'm not sure about this one. The beat has just this really strange sound to it. Let's move on to the next one. Finally, we have another solo track on here. Track number 9, Madness. Ooh.
Madness, know that when you at this. Gradness, grab it like I'm Atlas. Madness, know that when you
Oh, this is like a, okay. I didn't know we were going for a drill beat.
Don't piss me off, I've been killing this shit. Acting tough for the net with that feminine clits.
You censored piss, but then you say shit in the next line? Why are you even censoring something over a drill beat, bro?
Want a piece and I'll charge it. I'm at a point where I buy shit now just to rap about it.
This one to me, it sounds kind of like, more like something KSI would have dropped earlier on in his career.
Saying I need a feature, now the feature me. Never try, now it's easily. Back the beef and now I drink the tea.
Again, verse 2. What is it with verse 2 on KSI songs?
Still you wonder why they want to be with me.
That production is really nice. I did enjoy that song. I did think it was good, but it also sounded kind of like something that KSI would have dropped earlier on in his career. I don't know, it sounded a bit more raw, I guess. And that's something I kind of have mixed feelings on. The beat was hard. He went for a drill beat on this one, which always just sounds really intense and powerful. I did like the second verse on here. Again, I don't know what happens on verse 2, but KSI just unleashes the beast on verse 2 because there was more energy. There was a stronger flow on the second verse. I really liked how that came out. He was kind of snapping over it. And actually, the mention of a Lamborghini on here, that reminds me that there are about maybe 7 or 8 rappers that I've seen live in concert throughout my life. KSI is one of them. He was performing at, I think it was VidCon London 2020 or 2019. Can't remember, but I saw KSI perform live there and he did not perform Lamborghini. He was there with Randolph, so him and Randolph were doing their songs together, but I wanted Lamborghini at least as a little encore song just to show us how far KSI has come since then. And it would have just been really funny. If you're ever there again, KSI, please perform Lamborghini. Add it to the set list. So let's move on to the next one. Back to the features again. Track number 10, Silly, featuring Bugzy Malone. Oh my god. Okay, so we're going into the section of the album where stuff just sounds dark as hell.
Silly when I gotta spend it. Silly when I gotta end it. New city, I'm in love with a view. No pity when I fuck up a fool. Too drippy like I got it from Q.
Call me fuck up this team. I'm thinking you're a YouTuber running my grandma. It's like we don't get these big checks in.
Get me. Keep it popping like a 6'4" while sipped up on Tetley. Can't never forget me. They're plenty. Mud.
Oof. Those 808s at the end there. I really like how on the chorus, when KSI said sipping on Tetley, right after it, there's an ad lib in the background that's like T. I really like that he gave us that confirmation. This was another one that again was similar to Madness. It went for a lot more of a darker sound, sort of piano based beat with heavy 808s. I know I said earlier on in the album that I wanted to get back to the more rap style tracks, but now that we're on them, I feel like Madness and Silly almost feel a little bit undercooked in a way. I get that they're more simplistic banger tracks, but to me these ones really do feel like something from the Keep Up Creature EP days. Maybe that's just because track 3 to 7 was really like highly produced stuff with a lot of features, so it feels a bit strange switching back to some more bare bones tracks right after that. I don't know, but there's something about them that feels just slightly like not quite there for me. For this whole album, there's sort of been things that I like and dislike throughout it, but again, KSI is improving as an artist, and I like to see that. So let's move on to the next one. We're nearing into the end of the album. Track number 11, Flash It. And this is featuring Rico Love. Alright, so you really can divide this album into sections. This is the piano section.
Bound to make you believe, girl, you're gonna catch fever. Now the feelings up, flash it.
Ooh, okay, I like the sound of this one. This shit's bouncy.
I got stolen in my city, I'm a baller. Money making 50 every second, man, it's spinning like I'm De La Rue. Ha ha, laughing at the fight, you wanna beef? Nah, rolling with my brothers from the east, I can't. And I got a lot of weight on my back. 10 plus years of me scaling the ranks.
Girl, you're gonna catch fever. Now the feelings gonna ease on.
The amount of songs I'm actually finding super catchy on here is ridiculous. I will say the feature selection for this album, it's pretty damn spot on. Rico Love killed it on here, and I love the little like just those little hits of like the saxophone melody during the chorus. I think that was really smooth. I loved how that sounded. I think my issue actually with this track was KSI. The auto-tune sounded a bit more dissimulation style to me, where it sounds really sort of like awkward. I don't know if it's like an issue with KSI's original like singing or how they programmed the auto-tune, but something about it just sounds so like noticeably off to me. I do want to stress, like, even though I'm saying quite a lot of critical things about these songs, that's because this album is making me start to take KSI even more seriously. It's sort of like the standard that I'm judging KSI's music against is higher now. This album has heightened my standards for like what I want to hear from KSI, and that's really cool. Track number 12, No Time, featuring Lil Durk. I'm expecting something a bit more like US style rap on here, so let's hear it.
I stay focused on my trip, I'm flying, you stay lying,
Why did that high-pitched vocal worked so fucking well?
Feel the room, I got presence, and I never came in with a thing.
I think I know what it is. I think it's when he does those deeper vocals with the auto-tune that it sounds a bit off to me. When he's actually trying to sing a bit more and hit some stronger melodies, I think that's when the auto-tune sounds better. I love the chorus here when he was doing that like really like intensely high-pitched stuff at the start of the chorus. I think that sounded actually really catchy. That was a nice little artistic touch.
Really ain't a thing to me, yeah. I stay focused on my trip, I'm flying.
K-Blast, I got him off for real. Put down that Drake, I turn this Glock to a fully auto.
Shit, you say I can just read your mind.
I'm gonna be honest, I think that's one of my favorite hooks on this album. KSI is showing here that he doesn't need a feature to do a catchy hook for him, because I think the high-pitched thing he did there was really cool, and I think for the most part his vocals were actually really solid here. Even if I didn't love them during the verse, I think what he did with the pre-chorus and the chorus worked exceptionally well. That might be my favorite track on this album in a while. I think he should definitely do more stuff like that, like experiment a little bit more with different sounds and using his voice in different ways, because with this song, I think he nailed it. Lil Durk was Lil Durk. If you guys know how I feel about him, I'm not crazy about Lil Durk. I think he has very sort of standard features. I'm fine with Lil Durk on here, but I think overall this was a song I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm gonna listen to that one a lot more. Track number 13, No Pressure, another solo KSI song. Ooh.
Make you crazy, give her good time. She want baby.
What is this accent he's doing?
Mango dress got a body lit. Got me snapping your picture in public. Yeah, no pressure, but you know that my birds are. She clothed in wolf energy, cause I know where they hinder hungry ebony. I'm just trying to put you on the next thing.
I feel like with that one, it sort of sounded like KSI doing a sort of impression of another UK rapper. I'm not too sure how. I don't listen to a lot of UK rap, but just like the accent he was using on here, it didn't sound like him, you know? The beat had a nice little groove to it. I like the bounce these type of beats have to them. These UK rap sort of like dancehallish style songs. I like the bounce to the drums, the instruments and all that. Just the accent from KSI was a bit difficult for my brain to process. Let's move on to the next one. I'm reacting to the platinum edition of this album, which has the addition of the song Holiday, which KSI released before the project. And I wanted to hear it, haven't heard it yet, so let's move on to that. Track number 14, Holiday.
I wanna wake up every morning feeling better, cause I know you're sleeping by my side. And I'm looking for sun rays, needing them good days. You're my holiday.
Oh man, this is some nice stuff. This shit makes me feel happy.
Whenever you're here, it's a good time.
Oh, fuck.
I know you're on my mind. You really make me come alive. Fly me away. You're my holiday. Whenever you're here, it's a good time. Strawberry shirts in the sunshine. You're my holiday.
Bruh, KSI be hitting them vocals. Wow. I mean, I guess this song kind of applies to me right now as well. Like, I'm in Canada, traveled here from Scotland. I'm here over the summer with my girlfriend, so like this song really kind of relates to that situation. It's not exactly the most tropical country, but I mean, it's nice. It's very warm here. I'm boiling because the AC isn't on. Really made me smile. Really made me happy. I never thought I would hear a KSI sort of like love song that actually sounds really cute. Like that's a nice, just wholesome song, and the vocals were super smooth on it. I actually think that sounded great. Holiday is one of my favorites on here. That's crazy. Well, let's move into the final song on All Over the Place by KSI, Platinum Edition, Sleeping with the Enemy, featuring SX.
Sometimes I think this world's a simulation. The way that certain things just happen with no explanation. She laughed at me and said that this is just an April Fool. Sorry mom, but I'm for real.
And it's blinding my eyes. Now I feel like someone's watching me.
I don't know why, but this beat reminds me of Broccoli by Dram and Lil Yachty.
Cried when fully grown. I'm overloaded with emotions, overwhelmed with emotions.
Nowhere they're hiding, and don't make me decide it. I gotta break free.
SX hitting those vocals. Jeez. And there we go. That was honestly a good note to close the album out on. I liked what he did with that one. Like I said, the beat on that, it reminded me of Broccoli by Dram and Lil Yachty. I think it was just like the high note of the piano mixed with the way the 808 sounded too. It gave a similar vibe. SX vocals were smooth as hell. Honestly, he could have done more vocals throughout this album and I would not have been mad at that. KSI went with a bit more of a personal tone with the verses here, which is always a good thing for a closing track on an album to do. Basically just talking about the way his life has went and how it's so crazy it almost feels like a simulation, and the fact that he dropped out of school, sort of not getting approval from his parents for his decision straight away. And the first verse talked about him breaking free from that and just going on to do his own thing and become his own person and make the choices that he wants to make. And I think that was a great thing to talk about. I definitely thought that was a great note to close the album out on, and super catchy song. So that's the end of the album, and let's just dive into my initial thoughts from my first listen to All Over the Place by KSI. This was definitely an improvement from Dissimulation. I mean, if you've heard what I've said throughout the video, I definitely think there still is areas of improvement that KSI can work on in the future, but overall, I think this was his strongest project to date, and yeah, I really respect what he's done with this. So before we dive into some more of my thoughts on it, let's go through my favorite and least favorite tracks on All Over the Place. My favorite tracks from this first listen were The Moment, Patience, maybe Don't Play. I think I might put Don't Play in my favorites. No Time is definitely up there, one of the best. Holiday and Sleeping with the Enemy. Those were my favorite tracks throughout this project, and that's quite a lot, as you might notice, so that is definitely a good thing. Holiday, I'm gonna be listening to that a lot. That song just makes me happy as fuck. Now the good thing is, it's a bit hard for me to pick my least favorites as well, because there wasn't too much stuff on here that stood out to me as like, wow, that's a bad song. But I'd have to say they were You was one of my least favorites, Rent Free. Is there anything else that I didn't really like that much? Maybe like No Pressure. I'd say those are my least favorites from this first listen, but even then, that's not a lot. That's not a lot of least favorites. We had double the amount of favorites. I liked what KSI did on here. I think the feature selection was pretty great. I think on his next album though, I think there should be less tracks where there's just one verse from KSI. And I think he should handle more of the hooks, honestly, because on songs like No Time, he showed that he can actually make a really catchy hook, and I think he should definitely try and do a little bit more artistic experimentation like he did on No Time with the high-pitched vocals, because I thought that really added a nice element to the track. I think it would be cool if he puts a lot more small touches on his songs like that on the next project. There's not much else I can say because my laptop is about to run out of battery. I enjoyed listening to this, definitely starting to take KSI more seriously as an artist, and I think that's a really cool thing. So yeah, unfortunately I am having to close out this video off camera because, like I said, my laptop was dying and I don't have enough adapters here for my, UK plugs to go into the Canadian sockets to actually use my setup efficiently. But yeah, I don't think I have a crazy amount more left to say anyway. I think the production throughout this was really solid. It's pretty clear what KSI is trying to do with this album. He's definitely going more for hits rather than something that's super conceptual and deep, and I think that's perfectly fine if he makes it clear that that's what he's trying to do, which I think he does, and as long as he does it well, then that's really not a bad thing. There's a lot of songs that will stick with me and get stuck in my head, and if he does more songs like Madness or Silly in the future, I hope he does find a way to flesh those out a bit more, because I feel like those tracks could have been great, but they just didn't feel as full to me. But hey, overall I'm taking a lot more away from this album than I thought I would. I never thought there would be this many KSI songs that I want to revisit. Really respect what he did with this album and respect the fact that it does seem like he's trying to improve. Yeah, that is what I think about All Over the Place by KSI, but what do you guys think about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like, of course, if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more content similar to this. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Sorry I'm not on camera for the end of this, and I will see you all in the next one. This is CDTVthaG, signing out.